Getting ready to put some door handles in the old 62. Putting locks in them. They don't normally come with locks. I think it was an option. The only way you can lock it is by pulling up on the door handle and closing the door. And the driver's side would have a lock, but not the passenger. I'm not here for the 62 project truck today. We're here for a day in the shop. Appreciate you tuning in. Thanks for being here. If you're new, I'm Jimmy, and we are making it work. That's what we do. Every day, no matter what the circumstances, no matter what level of parts we get, we're going to find a way to make it work. We got the calm before the storm, a little sunrise action going on. Should be a nice day because the hurricane that's out there in the Gulf is going to be pulling some of the weather towards it. It's kind of weird how that works, but usually it gets really nice right before the storm gets to us. But we have so many hurricanes here, don't worry. A lot of people get worried, but people have hurricane parties and stuff. It gets kind of silly actually, but I think you should be prepared. You should be cautious, and if the storm is, if they're saying it's going to be really bad, you should leave. But we usually ride it out and see what happens. That's what most people do. Anyway, we're not here for weather forecasts. We're not here for the 62 project truck. That's just a passion of mine as a hobby on the side. I don't work on cars enough all week, so I do that. We got to finish up that Ford ABS, Focus ABS module. And I'm sure we got quite a few other things. I think Joe's doing an evaporator on this Land Rover. See how that goes. I'll keep you posted. Should be interesting. We're definitely going to be a little slow, I would think, because of this hurricane stuff. People have been canceling appointments. It seems like there's no in between. It's like the way people drive. They either go 10 miles under or 20 miles over the speed limit. Same thing with hurricanes. People either don't care and aren't worried about it at all, or they're terrified. There's not a lot of in between. I try to be a little in between, like Goldilocks. Maybe I should have named the channel Jimmy Goldilocks. This is about where I'm going to tie in the clips of the cars we're working on today. First things first, this morning I got the old module. He wants a brake booster. 2005 vintage Nissan XTERRA. Hyundai Elantra. Beautiful Dodge Ram. Let's get in there, learn a thing or two, have some fun. Stay tuned. ABS. First things first, this morning I got the old module. I'm going to lift it up. I got to get these two talking, and I put it back in the same module replacement mode I did yesterday, except I'm going to be able to turn the car off. I'll leave the scanner on and unplug it, plug this one in, upload, and then plug it back into the one I installed and download. We'll see how it goes. I got it out of the ABS unit. Now it's a matter of seeing if I can fit the new one in there somewhere to plug her in. I might have to pull this up out of the top, do it up top, and then plug it, push it back down and do it from the bottom. I don't know. Let's see if we got enough room. Gotta squeeze this up in there. I'm just gonna take this thing and give it a toss. I tossed it up at the connector thinking it would go. It just smacked the bottom of the car and fell on the ground. So I had to let it down, plug it in from the top. Keep it down. Keep it down over there. Alright, let's see here now. ABS. New module configuration parameters. Yes. Ensure the module installed. The old one needs to be replaced. Yes. Set the ignition switch to on. Key on, engine off. Yes. Switch it to off. This might seem familiar. We're going to do things a little differently today. It may happen a little faster, so that nothing times out. Off. Install the new module into the vehicle, which really means unplug the original module and plug it back into the one I installed. Now, get it on as far as you can, and then you start pulling this hinge down, and it should pull it on the rest of the way, and you'll hear it click. Now it's in. Don't forget your flashlight. Let this down, should be able to tow it okay and turn the key on. I hit okay, it says turn key on. That's what I'm about to do, because I follow the rules. I do what I'm told. Key is on. Okay. Loading vehicle data, please wait. Switch key off. Keys off. Okay. Switch key on. It's a lot of key on, key off, key on, key off. I'm not sure why. I just know that you got to follow the rules. If you don't follow it to the letter, then it makes the phone ring. I mean, then it doesn't work. Completed. All right. Now, I'm going to go out of here. I'm going to go system selection. I'm going to go ABS. See if we have any codes. Read fault codes. Key on, engine off. Okay. ABS light's not on either. I like it. There is no DTCs. Alright, started up. She's running. And we got no ABS lights. Everything is fixed. Oh, I still have to bleed it though. I'm going to bleed it really quick and then we'll take it for a drive. When you bleed these, a new module like that, when you change the hydraulic part, you do your conventional bleed and then you go into ABS bleed, which tells the ABS module to activate all the solenoids in there, and it purges any air that might be trapped in the module, and then you have to bleed it again. But that's part of the process. Sometimes you do a conventional bleed and you got a good pedal and you're done. But you won't know till you try. Let's do it. All right, we're gonna let that run a bit till I see this fluid go up visibly. Probably just a 1/4 inch or so. It shouldn't take too much. You're just dealing with 3/16 lines, right? Go around, do all 4 wheels, see what kind of pedal we got. Last wheel's done. We'll let this thing down, see what kind of pedal we got. All right. Brake pedal feels a little weird. Good enough to try and see how it drives. I may have to do that ABS bleed after all, but we'll see. Little test drive, we'll say. All right. Focus seems good. The brake pedal gets a little higher the second hit, but it doesn't feel soft. Kind of strange. Maybe a sticky slide. I might try to bleed it one more time later on, but this customer's waiting and he wants a brake booster. I don't know why. If you remember this vehicle, about 2 months ago or so, I did a water pump on it, a timing chain driven water pump. The customer attempted to do himself, and then he saw the chain drives it. He just brought it in here, but it's got power brakes, but the giant tires are hard on these little tiny brakes and makes it really hard to stop. So it feels like the brakes don't work, but they're doing all they can to stop the monster truck tires. That's how it felt to me. But he wants a booster. We're going to put a booster in it and see if anything changes. This is the 2005 vintage Nissan XTERRA with 213,922 miles. Got the super slippery. Oh, watch your feet. Got the super slippery engine compartment set up, and I'm not sure why he felt that was necessary, but whatever makes you happy. There's a brake booster. I sprayed it down with a little brake clean, so I'm not covered in whatever that stuff is. Fluid film or something. I don't know. It's going to be a tight squeeze getting it out of there. I wonder if I have to take these lines off from the master and get the master out of my way. I'm going to look up the procedure real quick and make sure we have the right part, and then we'll get started. Alright, I got the shiny vehicle's work area prepped. I'm starting to take these lines out. This booster, I was hoping I could sneak it out of there, but it's so long and back, it doesn't look like that's going to happen. So this thing comes out quite a ways with those nice long studs. That's why they tell you in the instructions to take the booster, take the ABS out to get the booster out. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the master out with the lines on it. And once the master's out of the way, with the 4 lines and a few bolts, I should be able to take the module out. And then we can work on the actual booster itself. More of those. There's also 3 electrical connectors on the master. What really makes me sad is I don't think this is going to fix anything or do anything for him. But that's what he wants to do, so that's what we'll do. Customer is always right. In the comments section, somebody said, mechanic finds a way to save time and still charges full price. I don't know how people decide things. Like if a doctor does a surgery, a little less time than it normally takes to get a discount. You know, if a carpenter does your house quicker, he charges you less. I don't know why people do that to the automotive industry. Just a total lack of respect, I guess. But we give you a price up front. If you want to pay based on how long it takes, we can work a lot slower. That's the whole point of giving you an estimate up front. So there's an incentive for us to get it done, get you taken care of, right? Now that the mash is out of the way, I'm going to try unbolting the booster just to see. I don't think it'll work, but I'm going to try it. All right, we're going in. We're going to see what we can see here. That's what we're working with. Got to take the 4 bolts off the firewall. Take the clevis pin out of the brake pedal, and then we'll be able to pull the booster out. I have the ABS unit loosened, but I didn't remove it. I'm going to see if I can save having to take the 4 lines off and bleed all the brakes and stuff, but we'll see. Gravity check inside the XTERRA. Doesn't hit the floor, it doesn't really count. I shouldn't have called it. Now, just use my pocket screwdriver to get this pin out. I might have to get some needle nose for those like I did on the Subaru. It's almost the same exact thing, huh? It's amazing how these manufacturers all do it the same way. They probably have a third party making their... Oh, with my head blocking the whole time. That's terrible news. They probably have a third party making their brake parts. That's why everything's so similar from brand to brand. You know, most manufacturers don't make 100% of the vehicle. Matter of fact, I think Hyundai might be the only one that makes 100% or close to 100%. Let's see if that'll fit out now. Something is happening, but not anything terribly good. Interesting. This is why they want you to remove the ABS. Sometimes you just gotta get a little mean and go. Sometimes it won't. Ta-da! Sometimes it pays to be tricky. Put this in here and just broke this nut loose. Quarter turn. I guess count these turns to take this off. You can adjust it in the car too, but 1, 2, 3, not quite 4. That's my partial turn. Now I'm going to go 3 more. 1, 2, 3. It's about where it was sticking out. So I think we're pretty good there. If you need to adjust it in the car, all you're doing is making sure that the pedal is resting on the switch, and that when you push it, it starts to activate the booster right away. You'll feel it if it's not right. There'll be too much play in the pedal. You'll have to change the length. Now sadly, the booster does not come with new gaskets, so you got to reuse the cracked ones. And looks like some studs might be tweaked a little bit, but we'll deal with that as we have to. Someone makes their car sound like that on purpose. There's a guy that drives in my neighborhood like that at night. Pow, 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 pow. It sounds like gunshots. I'm sure he's in his car laughing. But whatever makes you happy, I guess. Brake pedal bracket moves. Really good, cool setup, to tell you the truth. Got a couple nuts started from inside. We're about to hop under this dash and make this happen. And look how the lighting changes. Didn't change for me, but it changed on the cam big time. You see the studs are all through. I got the clevis on the brake lever arm. You definitely want to make sure you're engaged with the brake pedal. If you tighten all the bolts, then you can't get the pedal back far enough to get it hooked in, right? makes you a little sad. So oh, you're gonna need that. All right, let me finish tightening this up. Gonna have this done lickety split, and all right, let me try to impress the boss. Donnie's here today, and he keeps going, Jimmy, making it work. You got a socket I can borrow? Then he goes, Jimmy, making it work. You got a ratchet I can borrow? It's pretty funny. Now, you know I started these by hand, right? Oh yeah. Now what I'm going to do is snug them up and back them off about a half a turn. I'll get someone to push on the brake pedal, bleed the air out of here, and we should be about good to go. That tow truck you hear in the background, he was parked right behind me. I did all this without the camera on because of it, but I didn't do much of anything except I hooked this hose up. I started these nuts to get it close, but I didn't tighten it until I got my lines started. Then I tightened the master. Now I'm doing the lines last. So I bleed this thing a little bit, double check the brake fluid level, and customer will have his requested brake booster done. Had Donnie help me bleed the brakes while he was here. I figured I'd put him to work. We got a good pedal now. Little tiny bit of brake fluid in now. We're gonna be able to drive this thing and see that it's the same, which it might not be. I don't know. I'm just making assumptions. What do I know? All right, the Nissan XTERRA is set. I don't feel any improvement in the braking performance. The customer's going to take it and see what they think. Sadly, with that kind of a situation, usually what happens is they come back and go, oh, it's even worse. But we'll see what happens. This thing, the pedal's okay. It's not perfect, so I'm going to do an ABS bleed and try to make sure all the air is purged out of the ABS module. Press and hold the brakes, okay. I'll feel it jump, and sometimes it'll burp, it'll do things because it's running the pump. That's how it purges air out of the unit. For some reason, on some of these, the air won't make its way through on its own. My pedal comes back at me, and it'll do it 4 times for the 4 wheels. Sometimes there's air trapped in a solenoid cavity, and this helps get it out, and then I can get it out of the wheels easier. Sometimes even after doing this, the pedal will be good already, as if the air travels up towards the reservoir. I'm not expecting that, but I have had it happen where the pedal just gets good after you're done doing this. Let's see. Definitely feels like it got better, but I'm going to bleed the wheels one more time, and then we should be good now. Let's take this thing for a drive. My goodness, one of the finest automobiles ever made by the General Motors Corporation, the Buick Enclave. Customer said they unhooked the battery for something, couldn't say what, and the AC stopped working. It doesn't sound right. Let's take a look inside. This here is a 2012 Buick Enclave, 123,903 miles. That's not really that many for an 11 or 12-year-old vehicle. So, let's take a look at the air conditioning, figure out what's going on with that. And we'll go auto because it wasn't on. So we'll go ahead and put it on and we'll see what happens. He says it doesn't work ever since he had the battery off. It looks like feels like it's trying to stop. Ooh, that's hot. Oh, it's literally hot. That's not even like air conditioning whatsoever. Let me get my scan tool before we hook a machine to it. And maybe we can do a actuator learn. Maybe something happened where, you know, sometimes you start these up and start touching buttons without giving it a minute or two to relearn. The GMs, every time you disconnect the battery, it's going to do a relearn. So that feels like heat. Let's get the scanner. Let's get these two shaking hands, see what we come up with. I just dove right into the HVAC module. I didn't do a scan on all the modules. We're only concerned with air conditioning. So we got a recirc feedback prob, temperature control 2 feedback prob, and a temperature control 1. That would explain why it's hot on both sides. I'll try clearing DTCs and see if that does anything. Those came right back. Let's go to, should be actuator tests, or you can do special functions. Ooh, man, it's hot. My goodness gracious, let's do special functions. Actuator recal. Start end, okay. Commanded state, calibrate. Now what may happen because of the codes, if there's an actual failure, it won't do it. But it'll probably calibrate the ones it can and just tell you there's codes for a couple of them. And I can hear some doors moving a little bit, but I haven't felt the temperature change yet. Man, that thing is hot. It's full heat. That's not even thinking about air conditioning. So we'll try this. Once this finishes up, we'll see if we got anywhere. We could try disconnecting the battery again and reconnecting it. It's kind of strange that the battery won't cause him to lock on heat. He may have tried disconnecting the battery, see if it fixes it, but it's hard to say for sure what really happens. Sometimes customers think if they lie to you, it'll cost less. But all that really happens is you waste more time and it ends up costing more, really. I am going to disconnect the battery and reconnect it just to see if that might do something. That noise is new. Just before I go out and disconnect the battery, I wanted to show you real quick. The left temperature door actual and commanded is 0. The right temperature door actual and commanded is 0. So they're not the same amount off, but they're definitely both off. So now we're going to disconnect the battery and see if these numbers change. What I decided to do was pull the HVAC fuse, and it's under the right, above the right kick panel, and it's a real bear. There was no family-friendly footage, so we omitted that, and we're going to let it go through and learn. And we'll see if those codes come back or go away and what the dealio is, but something's trying to happen here on the left one. It's almost like the door's moving, but it's not going where it wants. So we'll let this run a minute and we'll see if it gets any improvement. It may just have bad actuators. So we'll also try to clear the codes and see if that helps as well. Pulling the fuse resets the HVAC panel. And that's what we did. Same as pulling the battery, except it didn't reset everything else. I noticed this clock is not right. So he definitely did have the battery disconnected anyway. But I just figured pulling the HVAC fuse, you know you're powering down the HVAC panel. So let's give it a minute. Now if we go into the data for air conditioning too, you can see permissions granted, the pressure is normal, request yes, battery voltage normal, coolant temperature normal, engine running yes, everything looks normal. So there's no point in putting the machine on. It thinks the pressure is normal or it should turn the compressor on. But we have, feels like about 95 degree, 98 degree heat coming out of there. It's literally, could be hotter than that. I'll get my temperature probe if we need to. Let's see what kind of codes we have. Same codes, yeah. This thing probably got bad actuators. The correct way is to get into the dash, put your voltmeter or your oscilloscope or whatever you prefer to use on the controls, and see if it's able to control the motor. You can also read the signal that comes back to the control head, because when it moves the motor, it also gets a signal back to know it's moving. That's what the counts were that we were looking at in the data before. So it's very possible it just doesn't know what position they're in because that signal's not coming out of the actuator. But the most likely failure is just the actuator itself stops moving. So, or a door could be even broken. You would have to take an actuator out to check for that. So probably a little bit of work on this car. But we'll see how far they want to go with that. There is one last thing we can try, and that is going to max temperature. We'll let that cook a minute, and then you can come back down to cold and see if that'll work. It's kind of strange that the actuator commanded temperature door commands haven't changed when I put it to heat. It did go to defrost and floor though. That's what it's supposed to do. Very interesting. We're going to have to mess with this a little bit if they want to go further. Probably have to get into the dash with voltmeters. I can hear an actuator clicking, trying to work. That's another separate problem, but we'll come back with this one if we're going to go any further on it. All right, I put the seat all the way forward, pull the cover off of this. The one thing we want to try before telling the customer actuators for temperature is disconnecting the battery again. It's the only other possibility, I think. There you go. Because things kind of jammed. If disconnecting and installing a battery made it happen, maybe disconnecting and reconnecting the battery will make it go back, right? This thing seems kind of jammed, like it was over tightened a little bit. I'm gonna try to free this up, get this battery disconnected. We'll see what happens. I'll let that sit for about 5 minutes, and we'll see if anything changes. After battery disconnect, about 5 minutes, started it up. Let the AC do its little recirc door relearn. It'll run through an automatic actuator test anytime it loses stored memory. So it's really important when you first start a car up after doing that, let the system do its thing for a minute or so. So I went in afterwards and I got the same codes. So I'll try clearing them again. I can also hear the recirc actuator. I can hear it over in the right hand side. I can hear click, click, click. So it's got a problem with that too, but the codes all come back. So this thing's got, it looks like 3 actuators, because the recirc one, the one I hear clicking, is setting a code every time now. So it's very possible that his AC was working because he never changed the temperature settings and stuff. And then once he did the battery disconnect, it went through a relearn and the temperature actuators are stuck on hot. But it's hard to say for sure till we get in there and see what's going on with a voltmeter, or just put actuators in it and see if it'll fix them. 99 out of 100 times it will. The battery story I'm not too keen on. When you get in there to disconnect this battery, it's a bit of work. Most do-it-yourselfers aren't going to get in there and don't have a T20 Torx bit to get the cover off. Plus, when you look at the date code on the battery, it says 9 of 2018. So the battery's 4 or 5 years old. So it's probably due to be changed soon itself. I'm not sure why you'd go in there and disconnect it or what the story is with any of that. But like I told them up front, I'll go tell them again, we tried this and it didn't do anything different. One last code clear, just for kicks. Read fault codes. Same codes. Okay, let me go back up front and call do-over and see if they want to do anything with the actuators and digging into this dash. I don't think you take the dash out to do them. I think you take the kick panels and the glove box, and you can get one from one side, one from the other side. Fairly easy to put them in there and see how it works. Probably quicker than doing tests with meters and stuff to try to see if it's trying to work them. But it'll be up to them which way we go with that. So we'll come back if we continue on this car. 2019 Hyundai Elantra. Check AC and oil change. Let's take a look inside. It's a 2019 with 65,314 miles. Low rating of 5. Nothing traumatic in either direction. I'll fire it up. I got the machine hooked up already, and it does have Freon in it. But, oh, the air definitely doesn't work when it's not on, so we'll have to turn that on. Let's put it on 3. I just like 3 better. The fan's a little quieter, but it's still blowing at you nice and cold. Right now it's on floor and dash, which is great when it's nice and cold because it keeps your feet cool, I guess, your legs, but nothing's happening with the pressures. That's kind of strange. Oil change says due at 67,000 December of 23. It's not due for an oil change yet. It's 1,800 miles away about. I wonder why they want an oil change early. I guess it's not up to me. I will let them know the sticker says that and see what happens. Let's go find out why the compressor's not running. I might have to hook a scan tool if I don't see something obvious out here. Compressor is not running. I always use the back side of a pry bar just to tap it. I'm not smashing it. And I also check the connector, make sure that's seated. Nothing's happening. Let's get the scan tool and see if we got codes or some reason I might not want the compressor on. See if it even acknowledges the fact that the AC control panel is asking for it. I'm gonna have to open up the fuse obid panel. The fuse obid is where they hide the DLC connector, otherwise known as obid, apparently. Get the scan tool and the Hyundai to get along, and we'll see what's going on. I don't see automatic, so Some AC modules can communicate without having automatic function, but all the automatic ones you can talk to and see what's going on. You can also look for codes in other modules. I noticed there's no check engine light on. Just a hood open warning, a door open warning, and looks like a daytime running light symbol. So, 2019, 65,000 miles and the air doesn't work anymore. We'll figure it out. Get it to scan all the modules. No codes, no codes, no codes, no codes. But we do have an air conditioning module. Let's take a look at that, bring up some data, and see if we're getting an AC request. No supported data. That's terrible news. Actuation test. Probably not going to do that either. Communication error, but yet it flagged it as green. Hey, we don't want to see that. Get out of here, topology. Interesting. It said it had one, and now it says it doesn't. It's not equipped. I tried, it said check mark, I went to go in it, now it says not equipped, which is what I expected, really. Let me go in the ECM and see if the ECM will let me see air conditioning compressor request and air conditioning compressor allowed. Okay, in the ECM we do have compressor on by ECU, AC on condition, pressure voltage, AC pressure, AC request to ECU. So let's go ahead and take a look at those. AC condition on, compressor on, AC pressure 140. According to my gauges, that's accurate. Request to ECU on. So that compressor should be running. Now we're going to get a voltmeter and check at the clutch to see if it's getting power and ground. And then it may have a bad compressor, which that would make me kind of sad. Let's take a quick look at the AC fuse. Should be this one right here. So we know that's good. Now we just got to get down to that compressor. 3 wires. I got 12.4 volts on my, that comes from the compressor clutch fuse and relay. And now the other 2 control the compressor. One is a ground from the computer, and one is more voltage from the computer, depending on what it wants the compressor to do. So I believe this is got a clutch and a variable displacement feature. So I got 13.7 volts on that one. Battery voltage on the other one, and this one should be the ground. Right now I'm doing a voltage drop test, but we'll go over to power with our meter. And we have a ground, so it's got a bad compressor. That was easy. Let's let them know up front and see where we go with this one. It's going on a trip. She wants an oil change. That's what she's gonna get. Oil change prep. You know how we do. Trying to splash me. I see how you work, turkey. Little splashaholics, what it is. Oh, look at that, man. Got me a sweet new filter. Takes a 1334 Napa Pro Select. I think Wicks makes them, I'm not sure. These Knipex Hyundai oil filter pliers, probably a little overkill. But we got all the space afforded to us by the luxury oil change pan in our drain. Might as well use it. Oh, uh-oh. That's tragic. You got a little oil on you. I'm sorry, let me get that off of there. You got to put this filter in. I never want to see you putting a tool on an oil filter to tighten it. Stop it if you're doing it. And if that isn't causing a new car smell, well, You have to fix the air conditioning and get serious about that. Don't put the cart before the horse. Cars always run better after you change the oil. 4.3 quarts of the finest dinosaur blood that you can buy in the mid-grade level. This is like the Stegosaurus dinosaur blood. It's not from a T-Rex or raptors. Because if you get it from a T-Rex, you only need one. If you get it from raptors, you need like 6. Because they're not as big. You know the deal, we give them their money's worth. I'm going to hold this container indefinitely until I'm satisfied with the amount that has dripped out of it. Come on, GoPro. I know you're in there. Speak to me. Don't go. Oh no. The GoPro's dead. Stuck on 11 seconds. Still recording even though I'm holding the button. Okay. I see how you are, GoPro. Oh yeah, you're repairing my file and then you turn yourself on when I didn't turn you on. I hope that last file worked. We'll see. And we'll see how accurate the quantity on the paperwork was. Oh, that's perfect. A little over full. We haven't started it yet. So once we start it and it fills the filter, I'm going to drop it a little bit. Skosh. You know how much skosh is, right? Happens to be almost the exact amount that we need it to drop. The oil cap's got to face forward, otherwise you can't tell what kind of oil you got in it. Oh, come on, challenge me. Uh-oh. Got a classic Mercedes out there. Kia needs an engine. And now a sweet Land Rover coming in, a Range Rover, Evoque, or whatever they call those things. Oh, yeah. Don't be jealous. Beautiful Dodge Ram. What a Hemi. 2013 1500 ST Ram. 82,926 miles. They were asking this ticket around. No one really seemed interested. The customer says it's stuck in 4th gear. So I'm looking at it. Check engine lights on. Find out why that pesky old light's on. And that might have something to do with what the customer's feeling. Whether it's a transmission or not, who knows. But the customer suspected that if he brought it in with about 1/8 of a tank of gas or less and said it felt like it was stuck in 4th, that we would look at it really quick. So I'm going to go ahead and pull all the codes, send a report to the front desk, and then we'll go over what we found. Well, we have got us a substantial amount of codes. I wrote down the codes that are pertinent or impertinent. And we got implausible ERS, electronic range selection message received. And we got a P0750 LR solenoid circuit. That might mean low reverse. Very likely that's what the customer was feeling. So I could, if I clear those codes, they're not going to come back probably until I duplicate the situation, which probably when he shifted or something, maybe it thinks you're in, I don't know, if you were in tow mode, it wouldn't be staying in 4th. It would stop at 4th and not go into overdrive and that kind of thing. But well, we'll look at these codes on the identifixer and get an idea which direction to go. Sometimes something like this is going to just be a selector lever sensor, like either on the steering column or down by the transmission. There's a selector switch, like what they call a prindle, P-R-N-D-L, and sometimes those go bad, the contacts in them, and it causes this code, and it also won't be sure about what gear you want. The part where it's stuck in 4th is the strange part to me, because it drove in here like it was fine. 1st and 2nd gear it shifted. I didn't take it on a road test because I didn't want to get stuck, right? But looking these codes up, we'll have a better idea. We'll be able to narrow down our search window and we'll go from there. Well guys, as you can see, it took me too long to gather my information and we're all closed up. It's awful dark in here. Tomorrow I've got to look at pin 1, connector 1 of the PCM for 1.8 ohms from the LR solenoid, low reverse solenoid. This is the connector for on the transmission. And this is the flow chart, which one flow chart for the U code I have, a U1449 implausible electronic gear selector. That code says, do you have any BCM codes? No, replace the PCM, which is kind of scary. Check the PCM connector, all related inline connectors for corrosion damage or pushed out terminals. Pay particular attention to the power and ground circuits. If no problems are found, replace the PCM. So I'm wondering if the solenoid being bad could cause this erroneous implausible code, which is very possible. So what I'm going to do tomorrow is prove out by looking at the connector pin condition, seeing if there's any corrosion in them, and then see what kind of resistance I have on this pin 1 dark green and white wire that goes to the LR solenoid. Should be 1.8 ohms. And a lot of people are checking these out and getting 20 to 35 ohms on them. And the solenoid pack is bad, 99 out of 100 times. There was a few that found a little bit of corrosion in the connector or something. And there's even a couple that were PCMs. So basically tomorrow we're going to finish on this one, check this connector, and we'll go over it some more. Hope you enjoyed today's video. I know I enjoyed having your company, but I appreciate you guys watching. Torque the like button on your way out if you will. It really helps the channel out a lot. And don't forget, I got an Amazon store if you're interested in any of the tools and things you see me using throughout the day. It also helps the channel add content. And don't forget to look for those project truck videos on Sunday. And I apologize for the long goodbye because I know I'm going to miss you guys till tomorrow, because you're awesome.